Welcome everyone to this lecture which is being offered by Dr. Rahul Banerjee as part of the series of lectures that the Baha'i Chair for Studies in Development at Devi Ahilya Vishwavidyalaya has organized called the Dialogues on Development. This lecture by Dr. Banerjee is on the Bhil Adivasis traditional modes of ecosystem restoration, a very important and vital and timely subject, given the urgency of the issue of environmental degradation and climate change. Uh, before welcoming Dr. Banerjee to share his comments, I would like to say a few words about him. Dr. Rahul Banerjee is a distinguished alumnus awardee of IIT Kharagpur and a doctorate from SEPT University, Ahmedabad. He is a social activist and a development researcher. He works along with the Bhil Adivasis to synthesize their traditional knowledge with modern skills and contribute to equitable and sustainable development as architects of their own future. Through the organizations Khedut Mazdoor Chetna Sangat, a trade union, Das Gramin Vikas Kendra, a public trust which won the Times of India Social Impact Award, and Mahila Jagat Lihaz Samiti, a registered society, he has participated in promoting and preserving indigenous knowledge, livelihoods, and culture of the Bhil community and countered its internal patriarchy over a period of 4 decades. Using mass mobilization, policy advocacy, media advocacy, project implementation, research, and legal action. Friends, before inviting Dr. Banerjee, just a few housekeeping comments. This lecture is being offered on Zoom, but also on Facebook Live through our Facebook page. We have participants joining us. All our participants are requested to please share their comments and questions through the Q&A box for Dr. Banerjee. The lecture will be for around 40 to 45 minutes, after which we will have a period of around 15 minutes to half an hour to take your questions and discuss your comments. So without taking more time, I'd like to welcome Dr. Banerjee to please enlighten us on this subject.
Thank you, Arash, and everybody who's listening for providing me the opportunity to talk about the Bhil Adivasis nature-friendly lifestyle. So I'll be using a PowerPoint presentation. So I'm just sharing that. So this subject, as Arash was saying, has become extremely important in the current context of the serious problem of climate change that humanity is facing. The Bhils that I am privileged to work with have done exemplary work in communitarian ecosystem restoration. And women have led from the front. So that is why I have shared this picture here that you can see, in which the are women who are protecting the forest, and the person who is leading, she is no more, Bhil Bai. So right from the beginning, when this whole work started some 4 decades ago, she was there and she led the women at a time when women did not come forward in various rights matters. So she was there. So I will be talking about this very great community that I have been working with. How do I move forward?
Usually, if you just click the arrow, it should work on your
Yeah, but
keyboard.
it's not moving. So I have to.
Do you want? Should I host it? I can do it from my end. Share this your PPT.
The PPT is being shared, but it's not moving for some reason. It's moved
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
It's fine.
okay.
Okay. Yeah. So these are all these technical glitches that are there. Anyway, so first I will begin with a brief description of the characteristics of Bhil Adivasi society. The first thing is that these people originated in Sindh, which is in Pakistan, and then they migrated. So now what we have today is the diaspora, which is in the hilly and forested regions of southern Rajasthan, eastern Gujarat, western Madhya Pradesh, where I work, and northern Maharashtra. And they are the most populous scheduled tribe in this country. So must be around 6 million because we haven't had the census yet. The latest census, there must be around 6 million people. The uh, Traditionally they have had a non-accumulative economy. So that is one major point about their culture, which is very important in the present context, is that they live close to nature and rely on nature, and so their economy is a non-accumulative one. And in fact, they have customs. There are religious customs that they have. There's a festival called Tingal, in which every household, every 4 or 5 years, they have to hold a feast for the whole community, so that whatever nature has given to them and what the community has given to them, because they cannot live without the community, so they give it back. So that is the major aspect, that one major aspect of the traditional, that is a knowledge system, that where you don't accumulate and instead you take the whole community together. So since they do not have a monetary economy, and they are living in a community dependent on nature, so they are tightly knit community, very very good relationship between themselves, and they have labor pooling customs, which I will be talking about in detail, more detail later. That they pool their labor to do the work that they have to do to live for their livelihoods, and they are fierce defenders of their resource bases. There are innumerable, in history, that right from the time of the Guptas, Gupta Empire, when the Gupta Empire was all over the country, the Bhils remained independent because because of the archery skills, and they refused to let people come into their forests. So because their livelihoods are dependent on that forest, they have both fought against others to prevent encroachment and protected them. And their gods, so their religion also is nature based. It's a nature worshipping religion. So they don't have idols. Instead, they have stones, rivers, trees, the cereals that they cultivate. So I will talk about that more later. So these are part of their worship. So this is the basic cultural paradigm in which they reside. And I would like to share this painting here by one Kosa. He's a Bhil Adivasi from Maharashtra. So interesting part of this painting is that the person there, in the arrow, there are pens. He's sitting on a book. He is traditionally dressed, but he's sitting on a book, and the bow has arrows which are made of pen. So this person Gosa is a part of an organization called the Adivasi Ekta Parishad. It is a Bhil Adivasi organization spanning all the Bhil organization, mass organizations that are there in all these four states of Maharashtra, Gujarat, Rajasthan, and Madhya Pradesh. They have formed this organization, and their thing is that in today's modern situation, your part, all this is fine about the traditional Bhil culture, but that is situated now in a modern context where the state and the market are dominating. So you just can't sort of idealize and you know about that traditional culture, because that will get wiped out in the modern system. So that is why this painting is important. It conveys the Adivasi Ekta Parishad uh, thinking that in a modern context, while saving the good points of our old traditional culture, we have to also engage with the modern system and ensure that our traditional culture survives in this modern system and it doesn't get wiped out. So this is very important. I'll come back to it again and again. So before going into what exactly the Bhils have done in the context of climate change, let us first see what are the problems that we are facing, the environmental problems that we are facing. First is the water. There is a hydrologist, Norwegian hydrologist called Falkenmark, and she gave a few indicators. So the indicator for water stress at the national level is that there should be 1,700 meter cube per year per person. If that level of water is not there, then that nation is water stressed. And for scarcity, it is 1,000 meter cube per year per person. Now, in India, on an average, it is 1,400 meter cube per year per person. So we are actually water stressed on the whole. But if you see the maximum areas in India, there are naturally water scarce. 70% of the area, except for the Indo-Gangetic plain, and the Western Ghats and some areas on the coastal regions, the rest is water scarce. So there actually the situation is one of water scarcity. The water scarcity situation is there. So this is the first problem. Next is that of agriculture, where due to the use of agricultural machinery, there's a lot of emissions going on. Loss of soil fertility has taken place. So soil is a major carbon sink. It can soak in a lot of carbon. But if the soil fertility goes down, then the soil stops acting as a carbon sink and it cannot absorb the water, the carbon that is emitted. Then use of synthetic fertilizers in this country, what there is a various problem. We won't go into that, but there's a various problem, and nitrogen is used more than it should be. The NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, there's a ratio of 4:2:1. But what is happening is more of urea is used because urea is subsidized, so more nitrogen, and the plants have a capacity of absorbing nitrogen. If you give more nitrogen, that is not absorbed by the plants, and then that gets denitrified by bacteria, and that emits N2O, nitrous oxide. So that is a major problem that is there. That nitrous oxide, which is 200 times more, global warming potential than carbon dioxide, that is emitted continuously from farms because of this overuse of nitrogenous fertilizers. And then there is this problem of loss of agrobiodiversity. Because of the kind of agriculture we practice, we had a hugely diverse system that biodiversity is going, and we are just cultivating a few hybrid varieties. The third problem is that of energy. We have very low energy consumption. It's just 2 units per day almost. That is the average consumption. Whereas countries like USA and all have 30 to 40 units per day, per capita per day consumption. So even with this low consumption, we are in a soup in India, because it's a high dependency on coal, and the electric power that is produced, that is in a problematic. It's running in loss and things like that. And then crude oil import bills are there. So fossil fuels, we are using a lot of fossil fuels even at a very low consumption, low per capita consumption. And if you want to go higher per capita consumption with fossil fuel energies, then we are in serious trouble. So overall, as a consequence of this huge emissions from fossil fuels and other activities, human anthropogenic activities, since 1945, global warming, the increase, it's 1 degree centigrade increase and 0.2 degrees per centigrade each decade it is going on. And the COP21, the COP21 in Paris in 2015, they had said that we have to limit it to 1.5 degrees per centigrade, 1.5 degree centigrade. That is the maximum that we can go if you want to avoid climate change. But that is a problem. So now, what are the various contributors to this climate change? So there is this from electricity and heat, production of electricity and heat, that is a maximum. But even if you see cooking fuel consumption, that also is pretty high. So the whole thing now is that we have to mitigate this. This climate change we have to. So what are the two main means of doing it? One is transition from fossil fuels to renewable energy, various other kinds of energy which do not emit, and the other is to carbon dioxide removal from the atmosphere. However, actually, if you see the total emissions now, it's around 55 billion tons of carbon dioxide equivalent per year throughout the world. And the amount of removal that is taking place mainly through forestry is just 2 billion tons. So the main thing that we have to do to mitigate is reduce our emissions and reduce our consumption. So in both these respects, that is why now I will come to why it is important that we, learn from the fields. In both these respects, whether it is reducing our emissions or consumption, as I mentioned, they have traditionally a subsistence lifestyle. So their amount of emissions or consumption is very limited. And secondly, they are very good at conserving forests. So in both these respects, we have to do climate change mitigation. And in both these respects, whether it's reducing emissions or whether it's carbon dioxide withdrawal, removal from the atmosphere, in both these things, the fields have a lot to contribute, a lot to teach us. So here I am talking about the knowledge of the fields with respect to climate change through communitarian ecosystem restoration. So, what are their knowledge systems that are very good, that are very important in this? So, the first thing is their custom of labor pooling. So the everything else hinges on this, that the community comes together and whatever work it does, whether it is to build somebody's house or whether it's a agricultural operation like weeding or harvesting, or whether it is protecting forests or doing soil and water conservation, these are things that they do together. It is not just one person doing it. So the whole community comes together, they decide they have to protect the forest. So this is the major knowledge system that I personally have learned from them, that this community coming together and working together as a community instead of as individuals. In this market system, we are all individuals. We just work for money and we get money and buy and things like that. That is not the system here. They work together traditionally, that is. So then this protection, this community cooperation that is there, that becomes extremely important for protecting and regenerating forests. See, if you want to grow forests, if you plant a sapling, if you just do plantations, if you plant a sapling, then it's very difficult to ensure that that sapling actually becomes a tree, because there are various problems. You have to prevent grazing, then you have to provide water during the hot summer. Most of the saplings die, so you have to provide irrigation and all these kind of things. So it's better. So the what the Bhils do, they are not going in for all this plantation thing. In India, we have wasted crores and crores of rupees doing plantations because eventually they don't survive. So what the Bhils they do is they just protect those forests that are already there. Those protect. So what happened was that due to forest department logging these areas that we work with, the organizations that we work with, those forests had got degraded. And then when the organization was formed, and then they decided that they have to protect the forest, they circled off their forests and they prevented even the forest department from coming in. And they said that we are going to protect this. We'll have our own rules and like that. So now over 70 in Alirajpur district, over 70 villages, there are 13,000 hectares of forests have been protected by the people through this community protection. The first photo that I shared, that women going out and protecting the forests. So this is one very important thing that they have done. And the other is there are hilly areas. These areas in Alirajpur are part of the Vindhya Hills, so they are very hilly areas. So unless you have soil and water conservation measures, bunting and gully plugging, they will get eroded. So what I was saying, that if the soil gets eroded, then its potential for retaining both water and carbon gets eroded. So that has to be stopped. So over thousands of hectares, again, the same thing. They get together, come together, 10 to 15 families, and they decide that, okay, we will do some bunting either on common land or on somebody's farm, and everybody comes from his own home and contributes the labor and goes back. So there's nobody paying anything. So this is another very important thing that they are doing, and they have done it throughout over thousands of hectares. Then traditionally, they have what the Bhil Adivasi agriculture is called default organic. They have traditionally not used these things. Even after Green Revolution and everything coming in, these people have remained outside that whole system. So this, as I said, that this Green Revolution agriculture, this chemical agriculture, that is one of the most polluting systems, because they are contributing nitrous oxide to the atmosphere. That is not there at all in these things. And their basket of food, that is very rich. They have various kinds of millets, some 10-15 varieties of millets, to 4 or 5 varieties of oil seeds and pulses, vegetables. All these things are there. So this whole system of agriculture that they have, that is a varied system, that is very very eco-friendly. And what is more important, as I was saying, that their gods, who are their gods? Their gods are their cereals. So in their myth, they have one creation myth, the Bhils. And in that myth, there is one goddess called Kansari, which is actually the cereal sorghum, jawar. So, according to the myth, God created the human being, but it had no life. So then God told the human being that you go and suckle at the breasts of Kansari. Kansari is Jawar. So Jawar Mata, they say. So if you suckle at that, then you will become, you will have life. So that is how, so life giver, so the cereal Jawar sorghum is for them the life giver. So that is how their whole worldview, their religion, everything is very integrated into nature and agriculture. And then they have gravity-based irrigation systems. So here you can see this photo, that there is have funded this stream. This stream, first of all, because of all this soil and water conservation and forest conservation, the streams there are perennial. In these villages, this is from a village called Vitara, which is on the banks of the river Narmada. So there the streams are perennial, and then they burn these streams, these weirs, and they divert the water to their farms, and it goes by gravity. So they are not using fossil fuel or electrical energy or anything, and this is still there. These are running in Bhitara. So this is a very important uh, so this is basically, in brief. I can go on and on and give you a lot of photos and things, but this is in brief their whole ecosystem restoration and eco-friendly, system of agriculture, soil and water conservation, forest conservation, and etc. But the problem is that, as I was discussing with Arash just before this lecture, is that they are a very small community. Okay, so they are on the margins of the mainstream system. So even if they are practicing this in their own area and have built up enough strength in their organizations to practice this, but the total population, as I said, is some 5 or 6 million in this whole country of some 1,400 million. The bills are 5, and even within that, the number of people who are in part of this organization who are doing this are very limited. There's a few lakhs. So even if they are practicing like this, unless mainstream society, follows these methods, there is not going to be much impact as far as climate change mitigation is concerned. So that is what I'm going to talk about next. That this is there, but how can we mainstream it? So here I will discuss some principles of equitable development, which should be there. So there is this very important principle called subsidiarity principle. It was first developed by the Roman Catholic Church, the Vatican, and but now it has become accepted. So this is a very simple thing. It says that what can be done at the local level, that the whole decision making should be at the local level. The central level authorities shouldn't be coming into this. So this whole thing of ecosystem restoration is something that has to be done at the community level, at the local level, at the panchayat. In our system, we have this panchayati raj. But what is the reality? The reality is that the panchayati raj doesn't have funds, and even if it had have funds, that funds comes from outside and with writers that you have to do this, build a road, build houses, concrete houses. Even in the Pradhan Mantri the Awas Yojana, it's technical sanction is given only for a concrete house. So all these things, that first of all, they don't have funds. The subsidiarity principle is being violated despite Panchayati Raj. Panchayati Raj is there on paper, but actually Panchayati Raj isn't there, because it's all decision making is done at the center only. The panchayats don't have any powers at all to. So that has to be reversed. This subsidiarity principle has to come in only then. What we are talking about the Bhils, their traditional knowledge, not only the Bhils, you go to the Gonds and you go to the northeast, everywhere you will find that tribal communities, which are 8% of this country population, they have something to contribute in terms of climate change mitigation. But what they have to contribute will never come into the mainstream unless you have this subsidiarity principle. Then the second thing is trickle up. You have to have investment at the bottom. If you have investment at the bottom, not only will that, if you have investment in ecosystem restoration, renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, not only will the whole ecosystem be more better, but that money is going to come up. The people at that lowest level of this country who are living in villages, they're in negative actually. Most of the time, they don't have money. So now, if you give that money there and direct it to, just don't give what you're having today is populism. There's people giving governments they know that people are poor, so they have to give them something. But that is just wasted. That it's not given in a directed way. You have to give that money for ecosystem development, sustainable agriculture, renewable energy, all these things, climate change mitigation. But when that money goes there, that will flow up, because they don't have any money. They have to buy. If you give them 2,000, 3,000 rupees or 5,000 rupees, it won't stay with them. It will come up in the economy. So you'll have a vibrant economy. The whole economic system will be more dynamic. So these are the two things that we have to implement. That without this, it is not possible. So now this is the whole system, the equitable and sustainable rural economy, how it is going to be. So based on what I have said earlier, you can have this kind of a system where actually the panchayats and the communities are able to implement this. That you have a biodiverse cropping system, so from that, you have whatever we eat, consume, and all that. That becomes manure after that, and some of it can contribute to renewable energy. And then you have forest, soil, and water conservation programs here. They also contribute to soil enrichment, renewable energy, recharging of water, groundwater aquifers, all these water, those problems that I had indicated in the first slide about energy scarcity, then water scarcity, and then food scarcity, and climate change mitigation. All these things, and this whole thing about rural economy. If you go to a village and you go to a village store, you will find all kinds of stuff that is coming from outside hanging there. And it's all trash that is hanging there. All these kurkure, and all this kind of stuff. So everything, whatever they have is going out, and they don't have anything. So unless you have local production, So you have renewable energy, you're producing renewable energy in a renewable system. And then, in fact, there's this whole thing of ecosystem restoration. If you have a growing forest, so you have a forest, you harvest it, and then use that biomass to produce energy, gasification and energy. So at the local level, you can have energy. This whole problem of energy shortage, and it can be solved without having global warming, because you have gasification, and that leads to biochar and all that. We won't go into the details here, but the main thing is that this is the system. So this system, once you have subsidiarity principle and trickle up implemented by the government, then you can have this system working there. And then this system, because it is based on the knowledge systems of the Bhils or the Gonds or the Adivasis, this will lead to a sustainable and equitable rural economy. And this is the last slide. I don't speak very much. The whole thing is that what we are actually doing. Arash was asking me that what exactly are the scope of all these small organizations. As I said, we are part of the Adivasi Ekta Parishad, which is the umbrella organization in which we are all there. And this whole thing is that you do all these research and development activities that are there based on traditional knowledge systems, or you get in new, like if you want to do classifiers and all that, that of course that technology is not there with the field, so that has to come from outside, or solar energy, or even wind energy. All these, it's not as if you just say that only Bhil knowledge and no other knowledge. That is not the scene. The thing is that Bhil knowledge, given its importance, we have to give it importance, and then synthesize it with the modern knowledge and try and get to a system where you have a more equitable and sustainable system, and that is also just towards nature. So in that, you have all these work, and then this outreach. For instance, this lecture today, I was very happy when Arash asked me to give this lecture, because it gives me an opportunity to talk about all these to a larger set of people than whom I normally talk to. So this is all there. We are constantly trying, and then policy. So as I said, the main thing. Say, for instance, if you take the NGO sector, the maximum amount, even with CSR and everything, is around 20,000 crores. If you take all NGOs together in this country, their budget is not more than 20,000 crores. Whereas the government, just the MGNREGS budget is some 60 to 70,000 crores. So NGOs, the maximum we can do is, give kind of some examples of things that should be done. But eventually, it has to be governments, global governments, or Indian government or state government. Everywhere, this thing has to be implemented by the government. So that is a major part of the whole thing. That if we can influence government to do all these things that we are doing, and give enough importance to Adivasi knowledge, then we will have a better kind of situation than what is prevailing at the moment. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you so much, Rahul. This was really, I think all our participants will agree that you uh, in a relatively short span of time, you framed both the challenge and the possibilities that are open to us when we think about what communities, especially like the Bhil Adivasis, can contribute and what we can learn from them. The questions are quickly piling up, so I'll take the. I'll. Do the Bhils have a realistic chance of protecting their values and culture even while interacting with the state and the market? In other words, can they avoid isolation and also protect their identity? How can they succeed where so many others have failed? It's a big question.
Yeah, it's very difficult. But as I said, at least the Bhils have this Adivasi Ekta Parishad, and there are other organizations also like Jai Adivasi Yuva Shangathan and all that in Madhya Pradesh. So they have managed to save a considerable amount of their culture. Their language is still there. They have their own music and dance, and these things are there. This is, I have just mentioned one example of a few villages that we are working in, but this is there in other areas also. In the whole Bhil area, there are, if you take these four states, there are many places where this kind of work is going on. So it is difficult. Now, what will happen in the future is difficult to say. But currently, it is still there. They are being able to, stand up against the market and the state, both of them.
with the support of the Adivasi Ekta Parishad.
Yeah,
So that
various organizations, right? Yeah, without that, it's not possible. It's just if the community is left on its own, then the state and market will just penetrate. They have already penetrated. I mean, they dominate the whole scenario. There's no doubt about that. That both the state and the market dominate this whole Bhil homeland is dominated by the state and the market. But they have managed to stand up to a certain extent.
Okay, Ganga Rao asks, you spoke of Panchayati Raj system, how to fix its problems and establish subsidiarity principle.
This is very difficult. No, we have not been able to do much in this respect because the whole system is such that it's very difficult. They control all the funds. Eventually, it's all control of funds. So all that funds these days, quite a large amount of funds come to the panchayat, and that they control. How that fund is going to be used is not in the decision making part of the panchayat. That is decided from above, and the sarpanch and all whoever are the officials and all that, they just implement that. So it's very difficult. It's very difficult.
Okay, the next question, how to ensure state, I think it's similar to the first one, how to ensure state and market work for the benefit of people and community and does not become a disruptive force that takes away people's agency. In other words, can it give wind to their sails? Can it work to their benefit? Which I think to some extent you mentioned that all over the world the state is really the agent that has to do something, and not much has happened so far. But yeah, like, any thoughts on this?
No, it's again very difficult because the forces, especially as I said, the Bhils constitute just 5 million population. So even if they, I mean, that also is divided. They mostly in the, it's all right. Adivasi Ekta Parishad and all is fine, but ultimately you have to win elections and go to the legislature and parliament. If you want to direct state or even regulate the market. I mean, the state is there actually to regulate the market. So if you can't get into that state, how are you going to do anything? I mean, as an Adivasi Parishad or something in a few villages here and there, you might be doing something. But overall, as I said, that's my last slide, that you have to influence state and policy, which we are not being able to do at the moment.
Okay, Shantanu Chakraborty asks, if labor is being pooled by Bhil Adivasis, does it mean they do not own individual plots of land for farming? How do they share the yield or money after selling the produce? If not, then what is the average size of plots held by an individual in an Bhil Adivasi village?
No, no, they own their own small plots of land. They're very little, even less than 1 hectare. The average in Alirajpur, the average land holding will be less than zero point 0.5 hectare. Because on the government records, it might show more, but actually, that one person, say for instance, I'm 63 years old. The land is in my name. I have say 1.5 hectares in my name, but I have 3 children or 4 children who won't get title to the land till I die. After I die, so actual fragmentation is much more than what is shown in the government records. So very small plot holdings. What this labor pooling is for sharing the labor. This farming is highly labor intensive. So that is one major reason why organic farming or sustainable agriculture doesn't spread, because it requires a huge amount of labor. So we have a one plot of land. We have once just we do some sustainable farming and try to spread it among the farmers. So we have a demonstration plot of 1 acre, and we have to put an immense amount of labor in that. So that labor, to a certain extent, by pooling, they can, reduce the individual labor. One household, the amount of labor it has to put in on its own farm, that gets shared. So every household, they come in and then they do it. So that is the thing. But the average plot size is very low. That is why this high level of migration is there, because this agriculture is not able to sustain them. So then they migrate to Gujarat, and even as far as Maharashtra and Kerala also, people are now going. Wherever they can get some additional income, they go. So that is another loss. They are losing their labor to some other area. So they are exporting their labor. That labor can be used. These traditional systems that I have described, those can be augmented even further if the state provides that money and tells them that, you don't go off to Gujarat or Rajasthan, Gujarat or Maharashtra or whatever. You work on your own farms and your own neighborhood, on your own village to improve it. So that can be done, but that's not happening.
Okay, another question is, do the villagers who are farming on forest land get price support, crop insurance?
No, 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 no. Nobody gets price support. The price support in Madhya Pradesh is for just this thing, this wheat. There is price support for wheat. Other thing, there are not much price support. And these people, they don't produce much wheat. The Adivasis in Alirajpur, they have begun producing, but generally no, because they don't prefer eating wheat. They prefer eating their own jawar, bajra, makka, and all that. So they don't get. There is crop insurance also is a big scam. Actually, nothing happens. There have been innumerable instances where I have had to file complaints. That people have not got the insurance companies. They don't. Actually, there should be a system where automatically crop insurance should come to a farmer who has lost his crop, but that never happens. So there are innumerable instances where I had to, on their behalf, apply and file complaints, and only then. So this crop, it's all there on paper, MSP and all this crop insurance. As far as Adivasis are concerned, I don't know about other areas what's happening. They are not there. They're not there in reality.
Can modern technology be made to work for communities like the Bhils? Experience shows it is a more destructive force by changing people's motivation for work, etc.
Yeah, actually, that's why I said there has to be a synthesis. What kind of modern technology? If you can use modern technology for renewable energy, or if you can use it for processing, agro processing, and all these things. Agro processing is a very labor intensive work, and traditionally it is done by women, so it's a drudgery for them. So now, if you have millets, especially, the problem with millets is that processing of millets is a very laborious process. So you have to have machines for that. So so modern technology that helps the community, that should be there. That doesn't come in, but instead, if something else comes in instead, then that's going to be harmful. So the whole thing is that this again, the subsidiarity principle works out. Those people decide what kind of modern technology that we should use. Instead, you're forced to use chemical fertilizers and pesticides and all those things. They come to the market. These things are not there. This whole thing I have been arguing for such a long time on this whole thing of gasification of biomass, agri biomass and forest biomass. You see, this sequestration of carbon is done by a growing forest. If you have a forest of mature trees, that is not going to sequestrate carbon. You have to have a growing forest. So you have a forest that is sustainably harvested, and you irrigate it and fertilize it with manure and things like that. Those are all labor intensive processes. So you create employment. This whole problem of employment in rural areas, which is not there, so people are migrating. You're creating employment at the same time. Then you are creating this biomass, which you can then gasify and produce electricity or use it for some other energy purpose. So that the I had a debate once about this with somebody. And I did a back of the envelope calculation, and that is that Through this ecosystem restoration, sustainable harvesting of biomass, and then gasification, we can meet 40 to 50% of our current electricity needs, energy needs. But that requires investment. This whole thing is that government has to lead in that, because this private sector will go in, they won't go in for distributed energy. This is all distributed. Each village or each community has one gasifier in which it is doing all these things. So it's all distributed. That will not be met by private capital. Government has to come in. So this whole thing is problem. This problem is that this subsidiarity principle not working. This is a problem.
Thank you, Rahul. There's another question. What specific skills do migrant workers in Alirajpur and Jhabua identify as crucial for improving their livelihoods? And how can NSDC tailor skill development programs to address these identified needs effectively?
No, these people, see, they what I have already listed that you need they have their skills. They don't need skills from outside. See, that is the whole thing, that their skills in forest conservation, skills in soil and water conservation, skills in renewable energy can come in from outside. This gasifier technology and all that can be brought in. All these things, that investment. Now, problem is that investment is not taking place in Alirajpur. It is taking place in Gujarat. So all the work is being created there, and there these people are going as laborers. So even if they go as skilled person, there's a limited amount. The higher you go up the economic ladder, the amount of jobs is less. The maximum amount of jobs is at the bottom. In ecosystem restoration, sustainable agriculture, these are labor intensive things, and this is where you have to. So it's not a question of developing skills. The skills are already there, appropriate to the area of living, but the investment is not there. So if you can put investment in here, well, MGNRHS is a beautiful scheme, and we used it in the initial years. NGNRGS had this component for nature conservation, natural resource management. So all our village people, they used to demand that we want to do this soil and water bonding, soil and water conservation, or some earth and dam or something like that, and people used to get that work. But now in Madhya Pradesh, they have become totally useless. The MGNR, what they are doing is that the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, that provides some 1.5 lakhs or something. And they insist in that technical sanction, they say that you have to build a concrete house. Now, even a small concrete house of just 200 square feet or something, that will require at least 3 lakhs. You are saying you are providing only 1.5 lakh, and you are telling them to build something that will cost them 3 lakhs. So how are you making that up? The labor component of that, some 1 lakh is given from MGNRGS. So MGNRGS, that funds that we used to earlier access for ecosystem restoration, now it is not available, and it's very difficult to fight. Somebody had asked that question, that panchayat system. It's extremely difficult, even for an organization like ours. They will just dilly dally the whole thing. That whole system is such that if they want to stymie you, they can easily stymie you. You can go on fighting, do everything, and nothing will happen. So that is a problem.
Okay, another question. In forest areas, how do Bhil community balance land use in terms of using up more and more land for agriculture?
So that is not the case anymore. Primarily because agriculture has become a loss-making proposition. So agriculture does not give them anything but their food. That also part of the food. Because they don't get any vegetables and all anymore. It's just some cereal. They have the land, they're doing it. Rest of the time they're migrating outside. Okay, so now, and the amount now what has happened is that in our areas, in those 70 villages that I'm talking about, people find it more, they have that awareness to realize that the forest, that land, if it is forested, it is more valuable than if you just, do some useless agriculture on that. And in those villages that are not part of the organization, there they have, that common land has become barren. So there is no there is neither any forest in that and neither any topsoil. So there is no scope for agriculture anymore. So the thing is that was a earlier case, very early. Earlier that was a case where there was this encroachment for this thing, but that after the Forest Rights Act came in 2006 in Alirajpur, at least what happened was all those got settled because of our organization. We were strong. We managed to get all those claims that were there, individual claims that were there, that were settled. Apart from that, the land that was there, that was protected by the community as forest. So there's nobody can go into that because the community controls that and they have decided that they want to keep it as forest. So the situation is not like that anymore in Aliraj.
There's a question from Caroline. With the state and central governments now promoting natural farming, do you see any evidence that Bhil methods and knowledge of chemical free farming are being more valued and recognized?
Yeah, the what I had mentioned was that the natural farming, sustainable agriculture requires a huge amount of labor. So unless you are compensated for that labor that you are putting in, you are not going to do it. That is a problem. See, compared to chemical farming, the chemical farming is less labor intensive. For instance, if we just take fertilizers, if you have one bag of urea, equivalent to that, you have to have at least 2 trolleys of manure. Okay. Now, 2 tractor trolleys of manure requires a huge amount of labor for composting and all that, and then distributing it into the field, and this all these things are there. So unless and then when you go to the market, you are getting the same price. You're not going to in the market when you go to sell. You won't get a higher price for your sustainable agriculture product. You will get the same price, whatever. Even the chemical people are getting less. Even the chemical agriculture, in fact, in this country, if the subsidy for this thing is removed, the chemical fertilizers is removed, and for electricity, these are the two main subsidies that are going apart from credit subsidy and all that, which goes to everybody else. But if these two are removed, then the whole agriculture in our country is going to collapse. So the thing is that you have to realize that this is a highly labor-intensive occupation, and in fact, when we conduct surveys in our area, when we conduct surveys, we find that the household, one small household which has 1 acre of land or 1.5 acres of land or something like that. Now, after deducting all the costs that are there and from the income that they get from selling that, the if you divide that net by the household labor that the household has put in, then the average daily income is just between 100 and 150 rupees. So that is whereas the agriculture statutory minimum wage for agriculture is 320 rupees in Madhya Pradesh. That nobody gets. Not even people who are going to work in somebody else's land, they also get 200, 250 at the most, unless they are doing piece rate work. Sometimes some operations, agricultural operations like sowing onions and all that, that they get on piece rate. So for that 1 or 2 days, for doing that, they might earn 400, 500 rupees. Otherwise, generally, when they go out, they get 200, and on their own land, they get only 100, 150. So this is a very serious state of affairs, that the people who are giving us our food, we are not giving them money. So the what is the logic behind that? The logic is that if we give them more money, if they give them 300, then the prices of food will go up and you will have food inflation, which is going to create a problem. So you want to keep the prices of food low, then you pay a subsidy. You pay a decent wage to the farmer. The Acha, I would just like Srijit has asked one question. I would like to address that. He says that in your answer to the first question, you mentioned that the Adivasis have been able to stand up to market and the state. At the same time, you concluded by saying that the state is important in the journey of sustainability. How do you address this tension to be or not to be with the state and also with the market? So when I said that the Adivasis have stood up to the market and state, that is only to a certain extent. That to a certain extent they have been able to. Somebody had asked about that culture, whether that culture it is going, but they have been able to form this organization and do something. But at the larger level, what I am saying is that if ecosystem restoration has to take place, then the state has to step in. The state has to step in and provide that resources to these people through MGNREGS or some other some other scheme. MGNREGS is the best scheme, but that the role of the state is extremely important. And I have continuously said everywhere. I have said that what we are doing, we are just on the margins. We are some 40, 50 villages. That is nothing. This country has 5.5 lakh villages. So unless the state comes in and intervenes, it's not going to be possible.
Thank you. There's a question from Kirti Kanko. Are you aware of any groups doing similar conservation work in collaboration with Bhil tribes in southern Aravallis? There is excessive pressure on Aravallis here, and deforestation rates and mining pressures are going up.
Yes, southern in Udaipur, the Seva Mandir is there. Seva Mandir, and there's another organization, Jini Shivastha, Astha. These are the two organizations that work extensively on ecosystem. In fact, Seva Mandir has now this FES, Foundation for Ecological Security. They give a prize every year. That's a worldwide prize for good work in ecosystem restoration. And Seva Mandir has got it last year. Seva Mandir and Timbuktu Collective in Andhra Pradesh. These are the two that got it last year. Elinor Ostrom, they call it Elinor in memory of Elinor Ostrom, the first that lady economist who got prize for this commons, saving commons, collective action to save the commons and all that. So, but they're all limited. As I said, they must be working in 50, 60 villages at the most, or 100 villages. The rest of Aravallis is going down the drain, obviously, apart from wherever these people are working.
Mukesh Gupta asks, Sir, in this Samaj Sarkar Bazar trio, do you see a possibility where communities and markets could collaborate together to force the governments into desired policy direction? Or is it easier for the Samaj to influence the Sarkar?
I don't see the Samaj really influencing. I mean, the markets control everything. What we eat, whatever we do, that is all controlled. As I said, in these villages, in these stores and all that, you will get kurkure and all this kind of absolutely worthless stuff are selling all the time, and tobacco and things, all these things are selling. So market is extremely powerful. I mean, right from the 1930s. Of course, earlier also it was there, but from the 1930s, with the advent of television in 1930s, the propaganda for consumerism, that is tremendous. So it's very difficult. Continuously you have consumer, even the person, our colleague who works on our farm, on that center that we have, that one acre plot that we have. There's one colleague of ours, that's an Adivasi couple. Their children also, they demand that you bring all this kurkure and stuff and all that. So it's very, very difficult. I don't see how, market, the way it is going, can be, the society, how it will counter that. So the thing, it's easier to try and influence the government, and that also is difficult, as I said, because there's no chance of we are not even able to win panchayat elections, let alone this thing legislative and this thing elections. It's very difficult because it's all become money oriented now. Because of panchayat, each panchayat gets at least around 1 crore a year from the government. So there's a huge amount of money at play. So the elections also are decided by that. That who guy who spends more money wins the election, unless in a few villages where we are in control. That's only 30, 40 villages where we have people of our own people, but they face a huge problem in trying to get things implemented because the whole system is controlled from outside.
Rajesh Ramakrishnan asks, how can Bhil organizations link up with similar organizations of nature dependent communities countrywide to create a politics towards alternative paradigms of development?
There are efforts. I mentioned this Adivasi Ekta Parishad. So they are part of a larger network among tribal organizations in the country. So and they try to, but the whole thing is that all this networking requires money. So that becomes a problem. That how for instance our organization, see, it's not self-sustaining. The work that I do, that money doesn't come from the bills. It comes from outside. No, I leverage some money from outside. Of course, it's very little compared to what is required. But the thing is that for this kind of organization, you need finance. And there's fees. It's very difficult. In fact, I mean, I don't know if there are NGOs here, people who are listening in. The NGO sector is in very deep trouble now because this year it's coming. It's a. I'll just digress a little bit and come in with the story. 2 or 3 years back, the Comptroller and Auditor General did an audit of the Income Tax Department, and then they found that the provisions for exemptions for trusts and societies for so-called charitable work were being greatly misused by even all these big companies, big corporations. They have all trusts and they are misusing those provisions to avoid taxes. So the Comptroller and Auditor General passed a stricture on the Income Tax Department that you are because you are not scrutinizing these tax returns of these guys, these big trusts that are corporate trusts. The state is losing a lot of revenue. So as a result, this year they have come up with a very stringent kind of law. That the reporting laws that are there, that have become very stringent. But the problem is that NGOs are in the trouble now. They have, along with the big fish, they have netted the small fish also. So now it's extremely difficult. Let's not go there. The NGOs that are there who might be listening in, they must know that now it's become extremely difficult to, comply with all these provisions of the Income Tax Department. And if you don't comply, then you lose your exemption and you can't access funds. So the whole thing is that, you want to do good work, but the funds are limited, and whatever funds are there, they're also getting very difficult to think. So what Rajesh is saying, to implement it on the ground is a very difficult kind of thing. Networking and this and that, getting together, and advocacy, whether it's media, even cases, you have to fight cases. Now this new the Conservation Act, the rules of the Conservation Act, they have changed, and they've removed the Gram Sabha altogether. Earlier the permission of the Gram Sabha was necessary. Now they have removed that from that, and that is in violation of the Constitution, fifth schedule. At least in fifth schedule areas, Constitution says that fifth schedule areas Gram Sabha is paramount. But whatever you want to do, you have to first ask the Gram Sabha. Now they have removed that from the rules. Now, to challenge that, now we are thinking about challenging it in court, and that will cost some money. A few lakhs will be required so that money has to be got from. So the thing is that many things can be done, but the problem always comes is that these organizations, what we are doing, we are working in a shoestring, not even shoestring budget. I would like to mention another joke that Martin Luther King had cracked. So Martin Luther King, in one of his videos, it's there on the tube. Somebody says that like other communities, the African Americans, they should pull themselves up like their bootstrap. That you should use your own power and try to rise up. So what Martin Luther King answers is that if we had boots, then we would have pulled up. We don't even have boots. So what is the question of bootstrap? So that is the situation of NGOs. We don't have boots. So Rajesh says that you do this, do that. Where will the funds come from? That is the situation here. So
Very
in
interesting.
fact, Martin Luther King had said that you freed us, you freed the slaves, but you didn't give them anything. At that time, for populating the western part of USA, which they had acquired, They were giving the white settlers coming from outside Europe, they were giving them hundreds of acres of land. But these people the African Americans who were freed, they were not given anything. You are free. What the hell? You don't have anything. So how can you be free?
Okay, then there is a rather long series of questions by Yasin, who says, what kind of technology and modern techniques could help the Bhil Adivasis scale their modes of restoration while preserving the spiritual component and values of the system? What kind of legal, technological, and most importantly, educational innovations are needed to make the adoption of such practices universal and applied in different environments and settings around the world? How can other agricultural communities, not necessarily related by kinship, learn to work in such a unified manner? You know, any
So
thoughts you have on this?
yeah, it's not, as I said, it's not. You just have to implement that subsidiarity principle. That is why before coming into what has to be done, I said that subsidiarity principle and trickle up. No, it's let them decide which. Why should we decide what to do? They are capable people now. They are educated also. When we started work 40 years back, there was not a single educated person in the village. These days, you have all these people who are educated, and they have all that I have said. This is not my thing. It's all Adivasi Ekta Parishad. It's all been formulated by them. I'm just presenting it here because Arash gave me an opportunity, so I'm presenting it here. But it's not mine. It's all there. So if a set of people can think so well, so coherently, all you have to do is give them that power. They don't have resources. They have mostly, as I said, half an acre of land and all that. That how will they survive? So they have to go off to Gujarat or wherever to somehow make ends meet. Now it's the responsibility. Why is the government there? I mean, if you take the liberal democratic state, it is there to redistribute income. No, that is one of the basic principles of any liberal democratic state right from the 1930s, when it became clear that you can't have laissez-faire capitalism. So the whole thing is that you redistribute, you tax those people who are earning money and then redistribute it to people who aren't. And they are not earning money not because they don't have the knowledge to earn money. It is because of the whole system that prevents them from utilizing that knowledge. And now, especially now when it has become very important, whatever has happened. But now, given this climate change, this whole global warming problem that is facing us, it is extremely important that for food security, climate security, water security, energy security, for all these reasons, we have ecosystem restoration, sustainable agriculture, and all these things. So when it's clear that we have this, then why don't we give those people, for instance, people who are taking part in totally unecological activities, like trading on the stock exchange and whatever. So that profit that they're earning, you tax that and give it here for work that is going to save them also. I mean, you can go on trading, and a few years down the line, there won't be anything to trade over. Because this is serious. One thing we have to realize is that, global warming, the way it is going, and everybody, like Arash and I were discussing just before this lecture started about Indore. We are now both based in Indore. This year, the temperatures in Indore are much higher than what they used to be. It's not winter at all. So all these things are, they're clear. They're clearly coming that the ecological hit back from nature is coming, and it's getting more and more serious. So 10 to 15 years down the line, we'll be in serious trouble. But even after that, this nothing is changing.
Okay, then another question is asked, from your experience, what are some cultural patterns in the Bhil community that act as barriers and need to be overcome to continue to deepen their efforts to live in harmony with nature? Is there an awareness within the community of what their strengths and challenges as a community are that they need to work on?
Yeah, the main problem is patriarchy, as everywhere. I mean, that's a problem with our mainstream society also. So even Bhil society is highly patriarchal, and women are oppressed in various ways. That's a different discussion altogether. So that is there. And then this superstition, and that also women suffer, the witches, witch hunting and things like that, and various other superstition is there. So all those things are there, and the AEP, Adivasi Ekta Parishad, recognizes all this. That is why that first picture was there, that you have the traditional deal, and then you have the modern knowledge also, what has come from education and research and science and all those things. They have to be synthesized, so that thing is there. But the main problem is that education. You have to have education. For instance, we have a school, we run a school, we have a residential school where around 200, 250 children, where apart from the syllabus that is there, what is the government syllabus, in extracurricular activity, they learn all these things. That whole school campus is one natural haven kind of thing. So you have sustainable agriculture in that, ecosystem restoration, renewable energy, everything is there, and those children learn. And there's a studio also, a cultural studio where content is made. We have a channel called Bhil Voice channel. So in that Bhil Voice YouTube channel, these children, the children, Adivasis, they make videos and they upload, and it's all related to culture and all this ecosystem restoration and all that. So education is important. So we how many people are we teaching? How many students? Just 200. And actually there are millions, as I said. So unless this whole thing, this education, all this that I'm talking about is part of education also, how are we going to change? So it's a very heavy task, very difficult task.
Okay, Mihir Bharadwaj has a question, which is in your view, in the context of the Bhil community in southern Aravallis who are selling away their ancestral tribal land for development purpose through land agents, and they end up encroaching land in the wildlife sanctuary and reserve forest. And while doing so, they are clearing a large part of the sanctuary and the reserve forest. What is your say about this? What do you have to say about it?
Yeah, what to say? The if the market is so strong, somebody comes and offers you. I would like to ask me that if somebody comes and offers you 1 crore, to do something, some bad thing, you'll have to think about that. You are, of course, you have a lot of sort of, you're philosophically and everything, you are strong and all that, you will resist. But mostly people, if somebody, all these are all living on the edge. They don't know where the next meal will come from unless they go and migrate somewhere and work. Then if I go and give them 1 lakh rupees or 2 lakhs rupees for something, they'll say that fine. And most probably that whole encroachment thing is also part of that whole package. Whoever agents are selling them this land, they're also saying that we'll arrange with the forest department so that you can go and really encroach in that area. So it's not as if these people are alone. This whole system is there, mafia. So it's very difficult for a poor person who doesn't know where the next meal is going to come from to resist this kind of pipe that is coming from the system. It's extremely difficult.
Okay, then Mukesh Yadav has another question. What type of agro processing equipment are commonly used in the region, and how can NSDC provide hands on training to migrant workers for livelihood?
So the agro processing, mainly these people, they just have for making flour from their from the grains. That is the most, in most cases, that you have that only. For higher level micro, it's, you see, the thing is that if you say have a processing unit, then you have to sell that product. Okay, so who is going to buy? Somebody who has money. These people don't have money. So the whole thing is that to set up some kind of agro, first of all, the production is very low. As I said, one acre of land each, so the whole production of Alirajpur is a very low amount of production. So there's not much surplus. From agriculture, there is not much surplus. A very limited amount of things, and that was soybean and things like that. Now, the people have started producing soybean and cotton. Now, soybean, cotton, and all this, the processing has to be done centrally. If you have this distributed processing, then again marketing problem comes in. So it's not just about giving somebody some skill. If that somebody has given you are given some skill or some technology, then the product of that, how are you going to sell that? You have to sell that, so that if there isn't a market there among those people, because they are very low people, they don't have much buying power, then that product will go outside. So what I was saying was that it's more important to ensure that there is money at the bottom. You provide money at the bottom and the rest will take care of itself. You provide a skill, but you don't provide money. So unless you provide money and for better utilization of the skills that they already have, that is, I have mentioned once again that this whole lecture is about their skills, which are very relevant in the present context, and they have been there, they're honed, they're perfect. They are the best forest conservators, they are the best soil and water conservators. So if they are already best in that, so why don't you provide the money for that? You provide the money for that, this will take care of itself.
Okay, then Yasin has another question. In your opinion, which kind of investment mechanisms are more suited to scale such initiatives? I mean, this goes straight to your point of money, whose main focus is not maximizing financial return. What would be the features and values of the perfect investment fund which might financially assist such projects to grow? I guess the question more broadly can be that where's the money going to come from? If it's the market, then the market is looking for quick returns. If it's the state, then that comes with its own riders. So, how can the resources be raised in such a way that it does not compromise the integrity of the process itself?
So the market is not going to do it. If the market had done it, it would have done it. I mean, it's a standard thing. Anybody who has read environmental economics will know that these are public goods. Like the police, for instance. Can you see, the police is a very important institution of the modern state. You can't, if you just take Indore, just 2 or 3 days ago, there was a problem created because of some law that the central government has made, which is creating problems for the truck drivers. So they went on strike, and then they, did all kinds of things. And then the police had to come in there. So the police, in the liberal democratic framework, the state, through its police, is supposed to, make sure that law and order is maintained according to justice, to maintain justice, basically. Now, are you going to then say that the police should be funded by in a political in a profitable manner? Can you make profit out of police or judiciary or whatever administration? So there are some things that the government has to provide. And climate change mitigation, ecosystem restoration, these are things that the private market is never going to do it. They can't do it. It has to be done by the government. Let the market, yeah, somebody is selling clothes, somebody is selling cars, somebody is selling whatever. Those things are, can be sold in the market. Somebody will buy it, that fellow will make a profit. So from that profit, you tax and then use that tax to fund these activities which are not profitable, whether it is police or judiciary or the academics. That is changing now because all this is private. The education is coming in, but as a result, what is happening is that education in this country is going to the tops. If you just go into the rural areas, you'll see that no schools are running, nothing is happening, and all these things are there. So even actually, education is a public good, health is a public good. All these things have to be provided by the state because the large section of people cannot access quality education and health and all this. So this ecosystem restoration is also there. So this debate about this private funding, it's impossible. Private funding for these kind of things which are public goods is not possible at all. You have to have the state coming in of there.
Thank you, Rahul. Just a few questions which we hadn't taken. One was they were asking, some participants have asked for your whether you've published any research papers on the Bhils, which can be shared with them. So if you share them with me, then we can share it with the participants by email.
There is
Uh,
actually the thing problem with that is that I don't find time to write research papers. But I have written some on this whole ecosystem restoration thing, but it doesn't mention ecosystem restoration because that was not in vogue at that time. This was some 10 years back. I had done a study, and that was part of my PhD. I did my PhD in 2013. I got my PhD. So, as part of that, I had studied one watershed in which all this that I have described has been done. So, but that is dated. That is from 2010, and that was because of the pressure of PhD. I had to do that. But normally, I don't write much papers. But that's there. It's a very popular paper on the internet. So I will just share the link with you.
Wonderful. One last question, Rahul, before we end, from Deepa. How can citizens own responsibility and make a contribution? Basically, we've said, discuss the problem. We've also said the state has a major part. But does that leave all of us off the hook, or is there a role that individual citizens also have to play in terms of uh, building on the some of the themes that you share, doing something about it, making sure that the knowledge that is out there is utilized? Can we do something about? I mean, when I say we, I mean like the common citizen.
Yeah, everybody can do because all this is there. These days it's very easy. You just give a search that what can I do for water conservation or energy conservation, and you'll get a whole list of this thing. But the thing is that you need commitment. As I said in my discussion earlier, that we have a solar this thing in our house, this house from which I am talking. We have water conservation. We don't take a drop of water from outside, and not a single drop goes out. All the water that comes onto this house is recharged or harvested and reused. All the used water is treated and reused. And then we have grid connected solar energy. So we export during the day and import, and we are net import exporters. So in both sense, water and energy, we are neutral. Now, for that, the problem is that to maintain these systems is a big hassle. Frequently they go bad. Something is going wrong, and there is no support system outside whom you can call. So anybody wanting to do this, all these things can be done, but then it requires a huge amount of commitment and money and all that. So that is a problem. That if you want to be environmentally, positive, then you have to put in a lot of labor, money, commitment, time, energy. All these things have to be done. If you want to do it, you can always do it.
Thank you so much, Rahul. I'm sure there are many more questions which we were not are not able to fully address as we would have loved to. I hope we have other opportunities to again interact with you, Rahul, in discussing these very important themes. I would also like to thank our very patient and very dynamic and engaged audience today, who have really kept Rahul on his toes, not let him have a moment of rest with so many. I think so far I count 25 questions. um, in case there are any questions which have not yet been addressed, we will email them to Rahul, and hopefully he can then share his thoughts in email, and we will share them back with you. I'd like to thank, of course, Rahul himself, but also all our participants, esteemed participants who are joining us from different sectors, from different fields, and also from different parts of not only India but also around the world, and really have been very engaged during this past hour. that we have discussed these ideas that Rahul has shared with us. Friends, the unfortunately we have exceeded our time limit. So although we would have loved to continue, we will have to uh, bring this lecture to an end here. However, the recording of this lecture will be shared with all those who registered for the lecture, which includes all of you, and it will be put up on our YouTube page, and you are free to also share it with your circles, so that these ideas and thoughts continue to circulate and influence more people, and we have more committed, as Rahul said in his closing comments. We in a sense consolidate the commitment around this determination to build a better, a more secure, a more ecologically sound, just, and equitable world. Thank you, everyone. And again, thank you so much, Rahul, for your time and all the effort you have put into this lecture.
Thank you. Thank you very much.